Hello, this is Mosh Wadan from GeoInvesting. Back to you again. This is a record here, 2 videos in a row for us. So I have here today, I want to introduce you to Mike Woloski. I met Mike about 2 months ago, and he's been working with me and here in Florida to learn about what we do, and he's helping us with our research process and helping us find good stocks, hopefully. I think he's going to be a great addition to our team for the short and long term. And Mike, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about everything about you, and you can take us as long as you want to really help us understand why you might be a great fit for Geo and how you can help us.
Sure. My name is Mike Woloski. I was in the corporate world for about 8 years, worked for Bell South, and then it got transferred into merged with AT&T. After that, I was in the Army. I decided to serve in the U.S. Army. Was there for about 6 years, almost 7 years, as a linguist. So got a lot of research experience and just kind of real world research, combing through a lot of records, combing through a lot of details. And after that, got out, used the GI Bill, got a degree, a bachelor's degree in economics, math, and recently completed my master's in finance. So, a lot of what we're doing, what Geo does as far as valuation, I have a lot of experience doing that. It seems really a good fit as far as the research, the math, and the valuation side of it. It seems to be a really good fit.
Great, because I'm getting tired of this game. So hopefully you can come and it's your turn to step in here. You're going through, doing this for 30 years now. Now I don't know how many more crashes I got to go through before I. It's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over again for the same different result. but no, that's good, and I think you helped us with some reports already, and internally. Actually, we were working on a portfolio protection piece, which we were going to release, but we were holding off on that, I guess, as we try and go through it some more. But look, so I think today what I want to talk about, I want to talk about some of these things we've been discussing between ourselves regarding what we're looking at right now. Is that the market's really a challenging time right now, and we're all trying to figure out what to do. And you know how we are really a proponent of investing for the long term. It doesn't mean we have, but of course it doesn't mean set and forget. We have to evaluate what companies are maybe not going to be around anymore, or going to be a lot smaller than they are before this whole coronavirus thing happened. Are we comfortable holding them through the downturn, even though they might fall 50, 60, 70, 80%? How fast will they come back? And then, of course, trying to find companies that we think are going to be stronger because of this. And not because we're trying to take advantage of. And I think, look, it's kind of, trying to find stocks to make money while you're investing and while this is going on. It doesn't always feel the best, right? Because it's just, we don't want to feel that way. But look, we are investors, and we need to try and find this way we make our living, and we need to do our best to keep doing that. And I think that we've been doing this long enough to believe that we have the talent to find these companies and bring them to our members. And I think you feel the same way on that. So let's talk about now one of the things you kind of agreed with, and you actually called me before we even talked about it publicly to our members, is you thought this, you had an idea of maybe bringing some stories and research to members about some sectors that might be worth taking a look at because of what's going on. And it's no secret anymore, right? So yeah. Why don't you lay out a few of those sectors, and maybe we'll talk about one of them today, where you thought maybe some of the buckets you wanted to take a look at, and we'll focus on one after you're done.
Yeah. So, what I was looking at is it's kind of short term, like some of the things were short term, like we talked about, like what are companies that in the short run have the potential to really profit from the current situation. And some of the things that another thing about me, I have 3 kids. So one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of gaming, right, is that gaming is really big. Kids are at home, people are at home. So one of the sectors or buckets that I was looking at was gaming, also communications, education, business is changing. And that looks like to some people is working from home, doing things like this, using, remote communication or video conferencing, and companies that can really, that do that can really profit currently. Other things that we talked about is, what big companies have the opportunity to really, so that's not really what Geo looks at, focuses more on micro cap, but what large companies are positioned to do really well in the short run. And something that, people may or may not have also thought about, which is, in a panic, generally, guns and gun sales go through the roof. So that's also something that I had been looking at.
Great. Yeah, you see, I mean, I think New York is banning gun sales right now. You see that?
I haven't seen that, but I know that a lot of metropolitan places are trying to restrict it.
Yeah. I'm sure after this is all over, there'll be a surge in gun sales, though. I think you're right about that. Yeah. So you mentioned something that was interesting. I guess, you have kids, and the whole video game thing was, there's definitely some big cap companies there like Electronic Arts, and I think that's ERTS, the symbol. And then I think there's Take-Two Entertainment, which is TTWO.
Yep.
One, but they're little. I actually invested in those companies many years ago, early in my career when they were smaller companies. But now that you mentioned that, there's an interesting company here that has been a lot of longs and shorts I've been into. It's called, the symbol is HEAR. Maybe you want to take a look at that. It's called Turtle Beach. Stock had a really big run a couple of years ago. I think from basically $3-4 to I think close to $30. And they sell some headphones, some really popular headphones that were being used with Fortnite. But Fortnite was hot for a while, and I guess it peaked at some point, and stock came down. So I'm just curious to see what you thought about that. And they made an acquisition in the meantime too, to diversify the company a little bit. So I'm just wondering, maybe if you have to take a look at it, if you're treating this more of a commodity business, or do you see this as some runway? And if you see these new trends, video game is even a bigger trend than it already is because of what's going on now. If you think maybe there could be an interesting opportunity for them moving forward. So maybe write that down for later, that we can discuss that. So let's move on. I guess we'll skip around a little bit. So let's talk. With the big cap thing, I came across. Did you see CVS's news today? CVS. I think CVS is going on like a hiring spree right now.
Yeah, I thought it said looking to hire about 50,000 employees.
Yeah, I think that was like the most aggressive hiring spree that they've ever really done. But again, this is one of those things like. There may be some things that they benefit from in terms of the pharmacy side, right? But there's going to be a lot of other revenue that doesn't maybe benefit. We'll be curious to see how that pulls out. But if you take a look at it right here, I don't know if you can see my screen or not, Michael.
Yeah, I'm following you.
All right, let me move this over here. So if we look at Reuters, I have this Reuters platform that I use. I think you're using Centio, right? So we look at here, their earnings per share are forecasted. Well, these probably don't mean anything anymore, but so the revenue was 260-ish year. Earnings per share $7.19. They're looking at in $7.15 in 2020. Actually, 19's over. It's not really much growth anyway. But the stock has come down a lot. And it's selling at a PE of 7 or so on future numbers probably. So look, it would be interesting to follow that story a little bit more and see what they expect out of the online and the at-home kind of revenue type of sales, and how much of that can mitigate what they might be losing in the direct traffic.
I don't know. The flip side is if they're hiring, they may actually be experiencing a surge of traffic. I actually had to go to CVS recently for one of my kids, and I was surprised at like how busy it was. And so it's possible, maybe that's just a local thing, but it's possible that as people are looking to kind of try to find healthcare or other items that may be sold out of other locations, they're looking to CVS as an alternative.
I think you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. And and then they go to buy toilet paper, then you end up buying other things maybe that while you're there anyway too.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. So we should try maybe dig into that a little more and see if we can maybe even interview the company if they'll have our ear. Being a big company, it's a little harder to get them to talk to us, but we'll see if we can get that done, or maybe even talk to some analysts if we can do that and see what they think about it. Great, man. So yeah. Now let's talk about cloud communication space. We've been talking a lot about that and within Geo, and I think you kind of like spent a little bit of time over the weekend looking at this. And there's two companies that we follow in the space pretty aggressively for a pretty long time. We're have pretty large positions in. One of them at least, ATGN, ATGN. And CXDO, Crescendo, is not as big as a position, but we like it to be bigger. But so when we look at those, maybe you can talk about what you kind of found around these two companies and where you think opportunity is, some of the risk here is within.
Yeah, they both, I would say they both have pros and cons, like anything right now. And what we're trying to do is kind of look at what companies have the least cons and the most potential to come out of this, strong. And some of the things that Crescendo has is it has this long-term revenue already in the books, right? Most of their customers sign on for 5-year contracts, which is great. For 2020, they already have over $10 million, already under contract. Over $10 million, and I think they made slightly over 14 million total revenue last year. So I mean, it's right about 69-70% of last year's revenue already in the books, even if the coronavirus prevents them from landing new accounts. They still have a substantial amount of revenue coming in. ATGN's a little bit different. Most of their customers are under a 1-year contract, but still they have a lot of 1-year contracts lined up, and that's this perpetual revenue stream, at least to get them through what was probably going to be the hardest hit time due to the coronavirus, right? They still have revenue coming in. Something I think is that you look at in Geo, something that's it could be a really positive thing in this type of market.
Yeah, I think we should expect that they're going to be, both these firms will probably lose, see some revenue attrition, or maybe even the companies might actually take it easy on some clients. Hey, we'll waive some of the fees for recurring fee for a short term, maybe, or
right. But if you think about attrition, I think in this type of landscape, the last thing a business is not paying is going to be their communications, right? Like I think based on the flexibility that Crescendo specifically does, that you can just take your phone, walk away, and plug it into anywhere you have, Wi-Fi or internet, and you can use that. I think that's the last thing a business is going to give up, right? Which is good for them. That somebody would probably, in Crescendo's type case, be willing to stop paying their rent, take their phone, and continue their business elsewhere.
Yeah, I think for our members here, we haven't followed these companies. Both these firms are in the UCaaS, Unified Communication as a Service industry, that help companies take their communication systems and modernize them and take them to the cloud, away from on-premise, so that it makes it easier for companies to collaborate with employees and their customers with any device anywhere. And that's almost like an 8x8, for example, or who's the other big one? RingCentral, for example, would be
RingCentral.
What's unique about Crescendo and ATGN is they're both profitable, and selling it.
Unlike RingCentral.
like RingCentral. And I think at some point, Crescendo is about to uplist, I think, to a bigger exchange here soon. So and that's going to be really good. And I think we'll see that multiple. I do believe that Crescendo, because their recurring revenue engines work really good. They're growing about 25% a year right now in recurring revenue. They publicly announced they want to make some acquisitions. The CEO, Steve Mihaylo, has had a history in the past of doing well in this industry, and has worked side by side. I'm Doug Gaylor, the CEO of the company, for a year. So the team's been together for a while, and other times. And I can really see this company, personally, it's my opinion that I think they can approach those really premium valuations that Ring Central does.
And this may be a good time if they're looking for acquisitions, that they could really take advantage of some companies at a discount.
Yeah,
and get those at a discount.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that was when you listen to their conference calls. That's one of the big things they talked about. They said they have a lot of, they want to make acquisitions, but they weren't seeing good value out there. Everybody wants too much, and now this is a perfect time for them to go in there and scoop them up at decent valuations, probably. So that would be pretty exciting. So maybe if they do see any kind of drop in revenue from their current customer base, maybe if somebody go out of business, for example, maybe they make it up easily through acquisitions.
It's possible
in that process. And so with AltaGen, it's a little a little more a different story, because they have a legacy customer base that they've been transitioning from on-premise to their cloud solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're only halfway through that. So that the first 50% of that kind of migration was low-hanging fruit. We bought the stock, I think, in 2014, around 25 cents or so. And right now it's trading, it actually really hit 180. It's trading at 1 now. It's come down a lot in the whole thing. But we've been having a harder time with the organic growth, I think, with that, the next phase of that converting over the legacy customers, a little slower than I think they would hope for. But maybe maybe what we're seeing now, though, is going to accelerate that process. Crescendo's talked about in past presentations that 70% of SMEs, small business enterprises, haven't transitioned to the cloud yet for the communication systems. They're still on premise. So there might be a rush here, and that might help maybe accelerate some of the legacy customer transition to the cloud.
I think it could help both Crescendo and AltaGen. One of the things that we were looking at is that in last week, Microsoft Teams saw 12 million daily average users. Their daily average users increased by 12 million in a single week, which is huge. And the fact that AltaGen has a partnership with Microsoft to be to provide installation and those services, I think this could be a great opportunity for AltaGen to take advantage of that, as more and more companies that they already service to transition them over to the cloud services, their UCaaS services.
Yeah, and I think you sent me a document here. Let me pull it up here. Which will be given to members, which you talk about some of these trends. And it's going to be very interesting to see if ATGN has been able to capitalize on it yet. I read the conference call transcripts of AUDC, which is another UCaaS provider here. Let me see, AUDC. And if you go to Seeking Alpha and read their transcripts, maybe their fourth quarter transcript, and that was really before, and Corona was kind of there, but it wasn't as fierce as it is now in terms of what it's doing. And even then, they were seeing a huge uptick in their business relationship with Microsoft because of Teams. So, and I know what part of the problem with the ATGN was we just didn't know how fast the Teams kind of was going to accelerate. It wasn't really progressing as fast as we wanted it to progress. Microsoft wants to get into this UCaaS environment. They're going head to head with Slack, with their Teams offering, right? And they're basically going to go head to head with RingCentral too here. And ATGN is banking that Microsoft is going to win that battle, both battles. And ATGN is going to be a help Microsoft with that UCaaS solution, I think. So I'd be really excited to see how that's going. But more importantly is their Fiserv relationship, right? And I think you found some new information on Fiserv, something that we did not have talked about yet. And maybe you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, they have Altigen has this ongoing relationship with Fiserv. As far as I can tell, it's been since about 2006, so pretty long standing. I found a document that basically said since about maybe 2009 that they've been their sole provider for VoIP, UCaaS telephone solutions for their banking customers. So that that includes banks and what is it, the credit union, stuff like that. It's hard to tell about exactly how many customers or what percentage of their customers are in the banking / credit union space. As far as I can tell, I found an estimate that says about 35%, I think, 35% of their total customers are in the banking industry, which would put it right around 5,000 customers, give or take, of which Altigen has themselves said that they provide services for 1,500 of those customers. So to move from 1,500 of the banking customers to all 5,000 would be a huge boost for Altigen's bottom line. And given the circumstances where banks and credit unions may be seeking alternatives to having people come in for meetings or alternatives to having people go on business travel, we see this as a big opportunity for Altigen to really capitalize and grow their customer base.
Yeah, and the really big opportunities that we'd like to get some clarity too on, what is it relationship that Altigen could have with Fiserv beyond the banking opportunity, and that's just that becomes a really huge opportunity. And he hasn't really talked about it. He's teased us for a long time. The CEO, Jeremiah Fleming, that he's really trying to solidify that relationship even more with Fiserv. And we're seeing clues that it's getting stronger. I know we've LinkedIn. We saw some stuff on LinkedIn, kind of where Fiserv is looking for Altigen type of employees, and we're really trying. And that document, that PDF you found, even though it's from 2014, really was one of them was from a Fiserv PDF with a header.
Absolutely. It says the document says that they're basically the exclusive provider of telephony services for Fiserv.
For the banking, right?
The document says period for Fiserv. Now, however, I think they only market those services to their banking clients.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
Great. And so, and if that continues to go through circle through the organization, that's going to be fantastic for him, I think. And I don't think Jerry. He hasn't really talked about the. There's probably some, situation where Fiserv doesn't want Jeremiah talking about it, maybe. So we really can't go too deep into what's going on there, but definitely the things we found kind of paint a picture of a very tight relationship that can get a lot better over time here. So we whatever happens here in the next 3-4 months, I think we feel pretty good about the longer term, midterm to longer term kind of opportunity for them. So, but you never know.
Right.
Look, we don't know how bad this is going to get. We don't know how many firms are going to go bankrupt. That's the tough part here in all this whole thing with the corona is like, you have a solid customer base recurring revenue. If they can't pay or they're not around, and
right.
I think one of the things we should ask on the next conference call with them, or maybe even a follow-up call in between our podcast, is to find out like how diversified their base is and where's their exposure. Do they have a lot of exposure to hospitality, or don't they? And that would be, I think Altigen has a lot of exposure to the banking system, right?
Right. They do, but I don't think the bailouts that are coming out now, it seems to really be in favor of the financial institutions. So I don't think the banks are going to be suffering too much. Mm-hmm. I worry more about the small customers, which could impact more crescendo. They have said that their customer base is very diversified, and I know they have some very big clients, but it would be interesting to know if they could give out some statistics or data about what their customer base actually looks like and where they're located.
Yeah.
I think would be a really shed some light on and maybe gives investors confidence.
We'll take a look maybe later at some of their presentation and see if there's anything more in that. There might have been a slide there. If my memory is really correct, we'll go back and check. Cool, man. Well, that was it, man. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for we got nothing else to hear. Now we're kind of quarantined, so I'm going crazy. Yeah, and we're probably gonna do some more of these and probably drive our members crazy. But I've gotten some pretty good feedback on the first video we did from some people, and although it was a little long. But I really appreciate you having confidence. I know you're coming to the Geo team at a pretty difficult time, and I know that well, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm glad you're already adding value. So.
Yeah, thanks, Madge. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here, and thank you for including me on this.
Excellent. Anytime, Michael. Thanks, man. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.